So I just put a couple of questions together for you because I know you're the main man and everybody wants to ask you these questions. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Real and Relevant. My name is Renata Reck, and on this platform, we're hearing the voices of the real and relevant industries out there that individuals and their voices are talking about. We're talking about Dagga, we're talking about coffee, we're talking about bamboo, we even talk about luck and comedy. Join me on this very interesting new platform, Real and Relevant with Renata Reck. And our next guest we have on the show here is Sheldon. Sheldon is long time. Ah, there we are. Bobby, he's known as Bobby Greenhash. Hello, Bobby. Ah, there he is. Hi there.
Oh, okay.
Happy Mondays.
There's nothing happy about Monday ever.
Your shirt is happy. My shirt is happy.
Very happy shirt.
Very good. Yeah, I love your painting in the back. It's still there.
Yeah. It was actually done by an artist friend of mine for my 50th birthday.
You've gone that milestone already.
Yeah, no, I'm on the better half of 60 now, so.
Oh wow. You're the grandfather of the Dagga industry, basically, of Southern Africa. You know everything.
The Gen X. The Gen X. I don't know everything, but yeah, I know a lot of shit about a lot of things, but a little bit of shit about a lot of things. So, but yeah.
Good. So you mainly Bobby Greenhash Foundation, and then you've got this other one, the KwaZulu-Natal Cannabis Development Council. Oh, I don't even want to use the C word in this conversation. I want us to stick to Dagga and to hemp.
Yeah, well, that's going to be a tricky one.
It's tricky.
You know, it's a term I use every day in the industry. You know, when I'm speaking to official people, you say Dagga and they don't take you seriously. If you say cannabis hemp or cannabis, the cannabis plant or cannabis sativa or whatever, then it's kind of, they understand what you're talking about. It sounds more intelligent than Dagga or weed.
Or back to the Khoisan Dakhab.
Yeah, I know there's no ways I can say that. I'll never get my tongue around it.
Yeah, so we were just trying to work our way around the algorithms. We noticed, like, when we tried to advertise last time for these festivals, it sort of disappears in the BDIs of YouTube and the rest of the world. I don't know if the rest of the world is not ready for our cannabis and hemp, but we're ready in South Africa. So I just put a couple of questions together for you because I know you're the main man and everybody wants to ask you these questions. But before I do that, what is the main question that people actually ask you when they want to get started in the Dagga business?
Well, there's a lot, but you know but no one's really got generally one question. It's normally a series of questions. Like most of the people that do phone me that are inexperienced, or both as whether they're experienced in growing or I don't know whether it's a business. So a lot of them don't know what they really want. They want to grow Dagga, and that's what they know. They don't. You say, why do you want to grow Dagga? And then that's where the question sort of goes off on all sorts of tangents, because a lot of the guys say, well, I want to grow Dagga to sell it. Yes, everybody knows that. That's no genius. But have you got a plan how to sell shit? I mean, you don't grow something or produce something and then not have a market to do it, or assume that there's a market that's going to buy your stuff. It's not going to work like that. So essentially, what I say to people right from the start is decide what niche market you want to get into and stick in that lane. You can't be a grower and a producer and a manufacturer and a processor and a retailer and you can't. It's not possible. It doesn't work in any industry. You name any industry, whether it's any cash crop, there's a supply chain. And the reason for that supply chain is that at every point that product becomes a value-added item, and at every point government collect tax on it. So why would government want the farmer to sell direct to the public? Besides the safety factors and quality factors involved, or standards involved here, you know, there's got to be some sort of regulation in the industry to ensure that it stays honest, it stays in the interest of the consumer, that he's getting the product that he says he's getting. It's been tested. It's you know, so you know, I come from the traditional way of doing it. Many years is where they called me a drug dealer in the old days, but you know, it was never a case of we don't want to be regulated. It was a case of we wish this was legal so that it could be regulated, so that honest people in business. But I always say I'm not in the cannabis business because of cannabis. I'm in the cannabis business because of business. I mean, it's a no-brainer. I'm a businessman. I'm not a farmer. I don't grow weed. I know how to grow it, and I don't because it's hard work. You know, let's face it. So whoever's getting into this industry, I'd say, choose a niche market and stop thinking about just growing buds so some stoner can smoke it on the beach and you're going to make $1 million overnight because it's 200 Rand a gram. It's bullshit. It's not going to happen. It's 200 Rand a gram because it costs that much to grow. You know, it's an expensive commodity to grow quality weed within a controlled environment. So it is going to be expensive. But it's not to say, I think that a lot of people lose sight of that. Think, oh no, I'm going to grow some in my back garden, or in a little greenhouse in the back, and I'm going to sell it to someone for 200 Rand a gram. It's not going to happen. It's just so. If anyone wants to get into the cannabis industry, straight on, I'm going to say, you're a bit. The train left the station already. The people are. People are on board. They're already doing it. They're going. You know, we're in a very advanced stage. We're meeting international standards when it comes to producing our pharmaceutical stuff. But to people who want to get into it, decide what you want to do. You know, and don't think about growing weed just for guys to smoke. There's so many different avenues where you can grow cannabis, and it can be produced into 5,000 different uses and products. Whether it's medicinal is just one small. Well, it's one small part of a massive industry. I mean, and this is where hemp starts entering into the game now. Start looking at hemp. That can produce so many commercial industrial products, and there's a lot more money, and it's a lot easier. If you think of taking just raw hemp fiber and turning it into hempcrete bricks, or turning it into hemp composite board, you're now adding massive amount of value to a product which literally has no value on the street to smoke or use any, you know, in any way, you know. So, you know, growing weed growing weed is not about just growing buds that people can smoke. That's really the recreational part of the business is pretty small compared to the potential of the industry, you know. So it's really a small part of the market. You know, there's not everybody smokes. It's as simple as that. So now you're looking at things like edible products, and you know, which at this stage are largely unregulated, and that in itself can be a dangerous thing because you can have too much edibles. So does that person producing the edible product, and you'll notice I avoid the word medibles. There's no such thing. It's an edible product. If you get medicinal value out of that, it's fine. But certainly when you're producing edible products with cannabis in it, is the guy that's producing it, is he testing it? Does he know what he's actually doing? Is he measuring the dose consistently? So there's a whole lot of factors in the game to be able to produce a product, and that involves testing, it involves packaging correctly. So there's, you know, these are basic, simple regulations that every single commodity that we produce in this country is regulated by something, whether it's sugarcane, whatever, you know, the vegetables, food, anything for human consumption has standards and quality standards and stuff that's got to be met. So if you want to enter into the competitive market, you're going to have to meet those standards, and you're going to have to get laboratories, whether you contract them or buy your own or build your own. So you see where I'm going with it? It starts getting a whole lot more complex once you want to enter the business side of it, you know. It becomes complex. So there's a lot of potential.
There's a new word I learned recently, and that's the entourage effect. I mean, talking about edibles and medibles, this thing of separating THC and CBD, it's been quite fashionable. I mean, you can even go overseas and get chewing gum in the local store with CBDs and so on. But the
But that's
idea,
all it is. It's fashionable.
but then
That's
they're
all it is.
separating it when the entourage effect is supposed to be the one that actually gives you the good vibes. And when you separate it, we still don't actually know quite if that's good for us or not. What do you think?
Look, it's I always say when I talk about the entourage effect, I often say if you take fiberglass or epoxy resin,
Yeah.
in order for that resin to work, you would have to add a catalyst to it, that hardener.
Yes.
So taking THC is like not putting catalyst in. It will cure over 6 years or 10 years. That epoxy will get hard because it's exposed to the atmosphere.
Yeah.
But if you want to accelerate that, the more catalyst you're putting in, the quicker that epoxy works. And that's where I equate it to that. The entourage effect is a critical effect because the THC is kind of like it kind of triggers other metaphasal processes with other CBDs, which is necessary to happen for the body to be able to use it. So THC definitely is a factor. THCV, particularly the V part of THC elements, it has massive medicinal value, and without it, it just doesn't work as well. CBD, it has its benefits, but I'm not dissing CBD by any means. But I think it was a way of a lot of people justifying what they were doing, saying, "Oh no, but it's got no psychoactive element in it, so it's good, it's fine, and all the rest." But is it? That's a debate that's being thrown back and forth all the time.
Would you say it's like making wine without the alcohol?
Yeah, or beer with 0% beer. I mean, who drinks that shit? I mean, unless it's fashionable. It's not where I come from in Zululand. It's not fashionable, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And all these types of growers, they've got, I mean, we've got like 101, maybe even 1,000 different types of strains. Is it really necessary? Everybody comes to you with this box of chocolates of weed and they say, which one do you want? And they're all beautiful, but if you're a smoker and you need, a steady supply of your usual favorite brand of coffee or wine, you know where to go to. Now, the rest of us with our Dagga, where do we go to know that we're going to get quality, we're going to get the same, and we're going to get good stuff because it's legal, we shouldn't be ashamed of even going down to the right store. How do we know where the right store is now?
Okay, well, most of the craft growers, if we're talking outside the realm of pharmaceutical, most of these growers are small growers. They grow maybe 5 kilos or a kilo a season or whatever it is. They're not massive grow operations because you don't want to be oversupplying the market. But most of these growers are growing fantastic genetics, and a lot of the genetics are bought in from local seed producers, from imported from different countries and that. But one of the things that is becoming a big factor at the moment is genetics. South Africa has a massive potential for genetics because we have some land races and some pretty unique stuff. So the guys that are going into the sort of serious craft growing, they crossbreeding and they forming their own strains. That's going to become intellectual property, particularly once it becomes a legalized process. It's going to be intellectual property. Those seeds are already being bred with DNA footprint or DNA fingerprint, so we know exactly who grew it, who bred it. Okay. And this is the point where it's got to in amongst the very serious guys. So genetics is a big thing. For instance, if I'm selling Durban poison, which may be owned by Sensi Seeds in Amsterdam, even though it's a local land race, I think we should sue them to get it back. But
like a lot of
essentially, So that's actually, if you look at it, that is stolen indigenous knowledge, which, you know what, nobody's doing anything about it because that's the nature of stoners. It doesn't affect them. But when it does affect them, like instance, sorry, you can't sell Durban poison anymore unless you're paying 10% or 20% to Sensi Seeds. And It's not so prevalent here, but overseas it's huge. And you can't, like, we're dealing with German pharmaceutical companies. They're not interested in coming on a shopping trip. When they come here, they're not looking to come to your back door because you have got the best weed on the planet. They don't. They want to come and see, is your facility up to standard? Does it meet the GMP standards or the good agricultural practices? So there's a whole lot of standards that they want in place. Doesn't matter what you're growing.
Yeah.
They want to know that, are you capable of growing and how you're growing it? And more especially, they're looking for local genetics, and they're tying people into contracts on those genetics. They're saying, listen, we want your unique genetics, so you will exclusively grow this for us for the next 5 years, or the next 10 years, whatever it is. Because if you take the other side of the foot, you go to Europe, and everybody wants unique genetics. They want exclusivity. So a German pharmaceutical company doesn't want to be using the same strain as their competitors. So it's kind of, they're very finicky on that in terms of doing business internationally. And it's going to go that way eventually, maybe in another 10, 15 years' time.
Yeah.
So, genetics is a big thing at the moment. If I say to guys, whatever you're growing, everybody's growing cheese, everybody's growing pretty common strains. Some of them are growing shit that they don't know what they're growing, but they call it cheese. So it comes back down to a regulated structure or some sort of better information or guidance or educational platforms to show people, shit, you can't sell me the Swazi and tell me it's Exodus cheese. It's not. But nobody really focuses on it because it falls under recreational, and they don't. The recreational guys, well, fuck it, if you're too stupid, then if you don't know the difference, then you're not a connoisseur smoker.
Exactly. And the connoisseurs are really hoity-toity about it. They know their thing. I mean, they can smell a flavor a mile away already, and everybody just says, "Hey, that's good dwak." It's not dwak.
And they're very argumentative about it as well. So. They argue over that.
So say, for instance, I'm now a farmer down in the Eastern Cape. I'm in the Karoo, half semi-Karoo, arid landscape. I've got a lot of land. I know that Dagga is something that can survive in this landscape. What would you say to a guy like that? Well, would you say, okay, go for it, I'll see how you go? Or would you say, get a couple of good strains and these are the contact details? What would one advise somebody like that? They're not particularly hard up on trying to make their own Dagga brand. They just know that they want to go into that kind of cultivation, and they're ready with, to do it big.
Okay, well, first up, if you look at international standards, and even with the human consumption products, which is largely regulated by SAHPRA. Now, SAHPRA are only interested if it's a health product, and it's a de facto statement to say that cannabis is medicinal. So they look at it like this. They say for human consumption, they don't recognize outdoor ganja that's grown outdoor for human consumption. That's fit for other products, industrial, commercial use. So if you want to be growing cannabis for human consumption or human consumption products, there is standards that SAHPRA want you to meet. That's easy. Well, it's not easy, but the system is there. You can go and apply for a SAHPRA, a pharmaceutical license like we did, and it costs an insane amount of money. So, it's like going and asking the government if you can make morphine because you're growing cocoa trees. It's just a non-morphine cocaine or whatever, so, or making, because you're growing opium in your backyard, I want to make morphine now. They're going to say, fine, you can get a license, but make sure you meet the standards. And meeting those standards is incredibly expensive. There's a lot of cost in setting up infrastructure. It took us the better part of about 8 to 12 years, just to get to the point where we met the compliance standards, and it wasn't just us. To eventually, it was inevitable, is that a whole lot of us corporate cannabis guys got together, all the serious guys, because there are a lot of bullshitters out there, and there's a lot of O's throwing off-take agreements around that are worth nothing. And there are a lot of scams in the industry. So we kind of got the serious guys together, myself and one of my mates and business associates, Johnny Hodes, and we sat down and we said, let's syndicate it. Let's get the big guys together and syndicate. Let's all get together as one big supply chain. So now our supply chain consists of about 20, I think it's about 28 farms that all meet SAHPRA standards.
Cool.
We've got testing facilities that are all SAHPRA accredited. We've got guys that are transporting, which are government or pharmaceutical approved. We've got testing facilities, we've got packaging facilities, which are SAHPRA approved. In fact, our facilities are the same guys that package some of the major supply chain, pharmaceutical supply chains. So we literally complied with existing standards and said, right, this is what we've got. We have now built this infrastructure that's compliant with law. And that's how you get a license, but it's expensive.
Yeah.
So straight up, growing weed for medical purpose or pharmaceutical purposes is out of the door for most people. You know, unless you've got a lot of money. For us, it was years and years of work, amalgamating with a group of companies that formed the BGF Synergy Network, which essentially is a pharmaceutical supply chain, and we're a licensed pharmaceutical supply chain. That doesn't give me the right to now sell recreational stuff. That is a point of debate at this point within government. We are talking to them. There's dialogue.
Yeah.
It's not that they're saying it's not going to happen. They want it to happen, because they realize the value to our GDP in terms of, in KZN specifically, tourism, 420 tourism, with health tourism, 420 tourism. They realize there's value in that. So it's just a point of like, how do we manage the craft growers? How do we ensure that the craft growers don't have a negative effect on the commercial and the sort of mainstream markets?
Yeah, yeah.
That don't pose, say, a threat to the medical side or the pharmaceutical side of it. No, it sounds a bit cliche. You know, I've always been like anti Mr. Farmer, anti Mr. Farmer, and a lot of the times Mr. Farmer has been a bit of a rogue. I mean, they haven't been known to be the most honest O's on the planet. However, their system is designed specifically for a reason. They just abused it and exploited it because it can be exploited and can be abused. Yeah. We've seen that historically. So within that, we don't want that from the cannabis industry. We want the cannabis industry to be a straight, honest cannabis industry where everybody has opportunity equally. It mustn't be exclusive. Everybody must have the chance. And last week, Monday, we launched with the Department of Agriculture, launched the applications for hemp licenses. And it's, I think I might have sent you the graphic. Did I send you the picture of it?
No, please send. I'll include it in this interview as well. Okay,
so yeah, stick down in the corner of the top, wherever, Renata, wherever you're going to put it. Okay. That application is there. That's for KZN. That was released on last week, Monday, by the Department of Agriculture. I'm blessed and honored to say that government did accept our model in terms of KZN cannabis industry.
Excellent.
As a comprehensive, so it's a bit of a feather in our cap on that one.
We are the first to know about this one, kind of.
Yeah, there's a couple of insiders that know about it, but you know, I have put it out on social media and stuff as well. Right. But guys, this is an opportunity. If you want to grow cannabis, stop thinking inside the box, step outside the box. The cannabis industry in terms of hemp at the moment is gold. Nobody's exploiting it. Why is nobody making hemp bricks and composites and products out of hemp? It's because there is no supply chain. Well, that's going to change because we're currently in the process. I'll be up next week at the National Visa over cannabis with the entire South African government.
Yes.
So, yeah, I'm blessed and honored to be invited to that. And it's largely to present the KZN concept or model and how we do it. And what makes our model very unique is that we don't deal with one sector like clubs. And this is where I think a couple of the guys that have taken legal action in the past to get cannabis clubs legalized and that it failed because it's exclusive. You know, clubs imply that nobody else is allowed in, and you know, it's exclusive and that. And we don't want to see that as industry players. We certainly think that everybody should have a fair opportunity.
Yeah.
So it's a case of we just got to beat out the recreational model and come to a compromise with all the stakeholders, whether it's regulatory or governmental. So we are getting there. We are progressing. But the hemp industry is largely unexploited. Nobody's doing it, and because of the supply chain issue. So what we did is we are now busy, also side by side with government and other stakeholders, building hemp processing facilities all over KZN. One's going in Impangeni, and we'll one eventually in Vryheid. The pilot one's going up in Tongaat. Because it's pretty central to the sugarcane industry. We've been in dialogue with the sugarcane industry, overlooking as hemp as an alternative crop to sugarcane, particularly the commercial sugarcane growers. And they're saying, well, we can grow it, but we need a co-op. So we filled that gap now, and we're in the process of setting it up. It's a 2-year project. We've already identified the premises where it's going to be. In terms of the pilot, it's already in process. We've got offices there. That's KZN Hemp Processes. And essentially, that's going to be a processing facility where any farmer growing any ganja of any sort can bring it, and it will be processed into different components or semi-processed components, which will provide a supply chain for other potential emerging industries. Like now you can open a blockyard or a textile mill or a composites factory, or there's a whole other thing, cosmetics, animal products, veterinary products. The list goes on and on. That's why I say, guys, if you want to get into the cannabis industry, find that little niche market. Find what you want to do. I want to make cannabis hand cream or face cream or whatever it is. Go for it. But don't go and try and sell weed on the side. Just stick to your lane. These guys are selling weed already. Most of them are very grumpy over their territory. So go make hemp bricks, go make textiles. There's so much potential market, and where it doesn't require a massive amount of outlay. It doesn't require permits or licenses or anything. If you want to get a grower's permit, if you're growing outside, I would say if you've got an outside grow operation, you're growing for large quantity, grow for hemp, but grow hemp. Obviously, within that whole thing, there's a whole lot of other problems that do arise, like hemp's very finicky when it comes to growing. It'll grow most places where Dagga grows, but some strains of hemp don't grow very well in some places. The other problem arises, where do we get this stuff processed? Who's going to buy our product? Who's going to buy the agricultural product from the farmer? And we solve that problem with co-op models. But I call it a co-op. It's not really a co-op. It's a processing facility. So that processing facility, though, operates kind of on a co-op model. We don't like the co-op model in some respects because it can be a bit exclusive and out of the reach of some of particularly the rural farmers that don't have experience with business or access to simple things like cellular phone networks. And so we had to say, okay, right, well, there's the regional co-op. Whoever brings the ganja in gets processed into wood chip, herd, seeds, oil, trim, whatever the hell needs to be. And then producers can come and buy from the co-op. And that's exactly how the sugarcane industry works. It's how the wood industry works. It's how the fresh produce industry works. You're never overproducing a product. You've got a market that regulates that. But with our whole model is, we said that processing facility doesn't only process it. It also becomes your training facility for farmers. It also becomes a support system for farmers where they can get seed and nutrients. It also supplies agricultural services. Like the farmer might say, oh, shit, I haven't got anything to plow my land. Okay, the co-op's got a tractor. You hire it, book it that day. It goes and it plows your land. And that cost is recuperated when you sell your harvest back to the co-op. So it works pretty well. Farmer does, So that's kind of the basic. We're still working on the finer details on that. We're sourcing local engineers to manufacture hemp processing plants. We looked at importing. It is pricey. We feel that local engineers could do just as good a job. It's not complex machinery. So we'll be putting that out for tender soon, tendering for people to produce hemp supply chains, hemp processing systems. So there's a whole lot going around on what we're doing with the hemp industry. We're providing that infrastructure so that people can go and grow hemp, and bring it to the local market, like bringing your scrap metal to a scrap yard. There we go. There's my shit. We tested, graded. There we go, Mr. Farmer. There's your tractor and your harvesting. We came and harvested for you, etc. There's your money.
Like they do with all the other industries. Yeah.
And even if you look at the ad that I'm going to send you, that's advertising for interest or applications for the hemp licenses was put out by Department of Agriculture and Rural Development, was you'll see it's simple. You don't need lots. You need an ID book, proof that you own the land, and a police clearance, all of which are piss easy to get. You know, it's not. That's all. It's. I'm not sure what the costs are. Look, I say, how much it's going to cost? I don't know. The last time I checked, a hemp license, I think government charged about 900 Rand. It wasn't even that much.
Okay.
But that's licenses. So I don't know what government. I think with interest with them having interest in seeing the hemp industry develop, they are probably going to make it pretty cheap and simple for people. What's restrictive is that you're over-regulating the whole situation. You've got to make it easy for the rural guys to get these licenses or these permits to grow hemp. You can't tell him he needs a police clearance and a 10-year medical history and who knows what else, legal documents and letters from his community leaders and a whole lot of bullshit. Even those guys even those that have the privilege to have that access to that sort of stuff, it's a pain in the ass. I mean, we've been through the medical side of it, the pharmaceutical side of it, and I promise you, it's like so much red tape and hoops to jump through. It's insane. But nonetheless, our focus right at the moment in KZN is in developing the hemp industry. So farmers want to grow outdoor, grow hemp, man. It's so easy to grow. I'm talking within the KZN context. I'm hoping that Eastern Cape and Free State and Gauteng and all the other potential outdoor growing provinces will start doing what we're doing. Put up an infrastructure, put up the plant. Even if we're happy from our KZN is to share the information with people and say, hey, listen, this is where we made a mistake. So KZN, I'm very proud to say, is kind of leading the way a whole lot in this industry, and it's largely not because bless, man, and it's not because we fought with government or fought with the police and that. I mean, there's many activists fighting with the police and that. I don't fight with the police and I don't fight with the government. It's, we all sort of want the same thing. We all want to have a good life. I mean, why not? So I don't see any point in fighting with them. So I've always been sort of optimistically progressive about my whole way I do things in terms of I'll rather walk into the police station and tell them I'm going to break the law than break the law and wait them to catch me and then play a victim. I don't. I don't have any fights with the police. I don't have any fights with government. I mean, they can say yes or no. If they say no, then and we think it's not justified, we'll approach it from a different angle. It's just perseverance. So whatever industry you're going to get into in the cannabis industry, fighting with people, it's not our style, and it doesn't work because most of these guys in government they've heard it all. They've heard it all. You can't pull the wool over their eyes.
And it takes a lot of time for people to be convinced that we're not the leftovers of society, the smokers, and it's not going to make you crazy. And maybe it does make people go a little bit offhand, but what food or drink doesn't? We've been addicted to Coca-Cola for years, and now we're only realizing we've been avoiding the good stuff. So I think you've given some real gems of information here. And the biggest take, I think, is that, to start with hemp, it's the basic. It doesn't have any additives or that is going to, make anybody worried of the elders. It's something that can be processed immediately. And if you're a hobbyist, continue your good work,
Governments are not, in general, the consensus is that they're not concerned about the guys that's growing 10 plants in his backyard and his thing, and he's using it for personal use. That's already been guaranteed by the Constitutional Court. blessed to Gareth Prince and Jeremy Acton and everybody else was involved in that thing. So, but that court finding in constitutional court guarantees you the right as an adult over the age of 18 to use cannabis or smoke it however the hell you want in a private space with other consenting adults where there's no kids around. It's pretty much street clean and cut. It doesn't give you the right to go and grow 200 plants in your back garden, or 1,000 plants on your plot or whatever, and then start selling it all over the place. It doesn't. That is dealt with. Recreational use is guaranteed by our constitution.
Right.
How it's sold and how it's traded and distributed, etc., that is still in a process in terms of the craft side of it. A lot of people do take it for medical. You can get onto our website, bgfmedical.co.za, and apply to become a medical patient. SAHPRA will give you a cannabis license, or not a cannabis medical card, where you can go into any one of the Section 21 facilities and buy that stuff.
Yeah.
And you can buy 180 grams a month. I mean, who's going to smoke that? I don't smoke 180 grams a month, and I smoke. I mean, so yeah. There is an avenue to legally buy high THC weed, and that's the Section 21 process. So, and it is available. Just go onto the website. Everything's done online. Consultation with the doctor. Everything's done. It costs about 500 Rand for the card.
Okay.
That's our friends in the regulatory bodies.
Right.
But yeah, it's not a difficult process. It takes 48 hours, and you've got it. It's really
that's for the person who needs the weed, or the person that's selling the weed, or is it the same? Similar?
The patient that needs weed.
Right. Yeah.
And some of the pharmaceutical stuff is pretty good. It's amazing stuff, and it's high THC, anything in excess of 23%. So,
wow.
What do you want? It's like, at the end, there's a solution, one option for everybody. We just need to evolve on it and build it, and we just need to get off our asses and stop thinking inside the box.
Yeah,
and start thinking outside.
Yeah. We're no more fighting. We're just trying to negotiate the leveling of the playing field so we can all play fair. Because 100%. You hear about stories in Florida where there's only 10 people that control the entire weed of the entire country. And you're like, that wasn't fair. That wasn't supposed to be legalization. You wanted to it out.
Well, the government say, well, you asked for it. Now you can get it, but you only got to buy it from these guys. Yeah. So this is why I say to people in the industry, careful what you bloody ask for, what you're fighting for, because they're just going to throw you a curveball, because that's what politicians do. I mean, of course, yeah. You want to smoke weed, they don't care.
Yeah. It's just all about the taxing and the certification and keeping us safe, that we're not going to smoke some weird, opium drugged weed. It can happen.
Well, this is the thing. What's happening is that you're getting guys that are now you're getting all these horror stories. They spraying doom on their weed, or they lacing their product with stuff. I mean, whether they're lacing it with, who knows? It's just like, if I go into a place to buy weed, I want to know that the guy I'm buying from is producing a quality product that is consistent. I can get it any time, So I would rather go and spend extra money and buy from a reputable guy than go and buy from some cheapskate runner down the street, some Naji, So again, it's who you buy from.
You've been, and I've got all the knowledge that I think we needed to have for this recording. You've been wonderful. I hope you can get on again when I've got some big questions again. Thank you so much, Bobby Greenhash. Can I say your real name also?
Thank you very much. I'm blessed. Thank you very much.
Very blessed.
Guys, thanks a lot for inviting me on your vlog. It's been a blessing and a pleasure.